Ahoy everyone! Thank you very much for joining us again. We are here with a new episode of the podcast. Let me know if everything is okay, if there are audio issues or something like that. I have to go very quickly this time because the topic is a little bit more complicated than the last time. Last week we started with something simple, just a little bit of history of food, while this time is going to be a little more tricky. Afterwards, let me know if this is too much complicated and if you want something more simple for next time. Today's topic is going to be philosophy of time and time travels. We discuss about time. So, we live in time, we move through time, but what actually is time? Augustine of Hippo, the philosopher and theologist, used to say that, what then is time? If no one asks me, I know. If I want to explain it to a questioner, I do not know. Such a simple answer actually embodies very well how we feel about time. We can think about it, we can understand it, but we cannot truly explain it. And such a simple explanation also represents very well what happens with new scientific discoveries, like Einstein's special relativity. When we discuss about time, we have mainly two theories, the A theory and the B theory. In the so-called A theory, time is considered as tensed. Tensed time means that time actually has a meaning. Time positions have a meaning. So it means that we live in the present, and this is the true present, the only objective present, and everything that has happened before this moment is the past, and everything that is going to happen after this moment is the future. This is actually quite simple. It's the normal way we usually think about time, nothing complicated. While in the B theory, things are different. In the B theory, time is considered as tenseless. This means that time positions have not a real objective value. So we think we are living the present, but it's not the real present. It's like it's the present only for us on a cognitive level. We could say that 100 years from now, there is a person who is thinking the same things as us and is thinking, I am living in the present. So in the B theory, there is not past and present, past and future, and present is only cognitive. So we can't say, for example, the Battle of Cartagena has happened in the past, because there is no past. There are only relationships between events. So it is actually correct to say the Battle of Cartagena has happened before the COVID-19 crisis, for example. And we can't say the man will live on Mars in the future, but we can say living on Mars will happen after the COVID-19 crisis. These are the two main theories, but there are also some subcategories we can say. The main model of A theory, where time actually has a meaning, is the last one you can see here, the presentism. In presentism, both past and future don't exist. There is only present. Present, what we are living, is the only thing that exists. And this present block moves onward, making new moments the real present. And another similar model, which comes also from the A theory, is the third one you can see, the growing block model. In the growing block model, only the future doesn't exist. We have an objective present, which is the time we are living at this moment, but also the past is considered real, because it's true, the past is not anymore, but it has happened, it's something certain that has happened in time, so it is considered as real. While the future, since the future is not yet, it's open, it's not real yet, it still has to happen, it's open. There are also other interesting A-theory models, but time is very short for us, so in case we can discuss about them later. While the main model of the B-theory is the first one, the eternalism, which is like this. In eternalism, since, as we said, there are not a real past, a real future, and a real present, all time exists at the same time, you can say. Every moment in time exists simultaneously. What is happening in the past is, in our past, is happening at the same time as our present, and it's also the same for future. It's just like, it seems complicated, but it's just like this. Oops. A big block, just this big block, the first one you can see. That is time. That is the line of time, and everything happens simultaneously. There is no preference between past, future, or present. This stuff is actually very important to discuss about the real topic of this podcast, time travels. Why are these models important for time travels? Because if you think about it, if you want to travel to a different time, the time you are traveling to actually has to exist, otherwise it would not make sense. For example, think about presentism. If there is only present, if present is the only thing that exists, it wouldn't make sense to speak about traveling to the past or traveling to the future, because they just don't exist. While if you consider the growing block model, we said that in this model the past actually exists, so it is theoretically possible to travel to a time that has already happened, while it is logically impossible to travel to future, because future is still open, it still has not happened. But let's consider this traveling to the past. What happens if we travel to the past? Yeah, it is logically possible to think about it, but traveling to the past has some problems. For example, if I travel to the past, I go to 60 years ago, and accidentally I kill my grandfather. If I kill my grandfather, then my father was never born, and if my father was never born, I was never born. And if I was never born, then I can't go back in time and kill my grandfather. But if I can go back in time and kill my grandfather, then he actually doesn't die, and my father was born, and I was born, and so on and so on. There is this endless loop. This is a paradox. It's called the grandfather paradox. So even though it is logically possible to think about traveling to the past, there are these paradoxes that can happen at all times, and they seem to make traveling to the past impossible. There are actually some solutions to this kind of paradoxes, and they are used very often in science fiction and in works of fiction in general about time travels. A very nice solution is the so-called Novikov self-consistency principle. This principle says that it is possible to travel in the past, but it's not possible as a principle to cause paradoxes. So this means that if someone travels to the past, what he has done has just already happened without paradoxes. For example, if tomorrow, day 6th of November, someone goes back in time to the 4th of November and he does something, the people from yesterday who are living the 4th of November as their present are seeing the actions of the time traveler as present. And today, the 5th of November, what the time traveler has done yesterday, 4th, has already happened, even though he has not traveled yet, because he is gonna travel tomorrow, day 6. This might sound complicated, but it's actually just Harry Potter. If you have watched or read the 3rd episode, you probably know what I'm talking about. And these considerations about time travels in science fiction are very interesting because you can apply models of this kind to any kind of works of fiction that deals with time travel. For example, if you think about the recent Tenet from Christopher Nolan, in that case we clearly have a B theory of time. All time must exist simultaneously. Otherwise, it would not be possible to travel from one way to the other. And not only that, in that movie, we even don't have a privileged direction of time. So you can apply different models of time to any of these works of fiction. It's very fun when you start to grasp how they work. So, to discuss a little bit more about this topic, I had chosen a movie I really love, which is Donnie Darko. I actually have chosen this movie for quite a practical reason, which is that it has recently appeared on Prime Amazon Video, so if you want to watch it, you can go immediately. But maybe it was a little bit too complicated of a choice, because the movie has a lot of messages, a lot of themes, time travels, works in a weird way, so I wasn't sure how to talk about it, and in the end I have decided to talk very little about the movie, for two reasons. The first reason is that I would like to avoid spoilers as much as possible, not to ruin the movie to you. And the second reason is just that I think it might be more fun for you if you just go and watch the movie and try to understand by yourself what is happening with the time, what type of time model the movie is applying. So, very short synopsis. The movie is about Donnie Darko. He's a troubled teenager. He's very smart, but he suffers from some kind of schizophrenia. He has some mental problems, and he needs a psychiatrist. And he also has hallucinations. And one day, while he's sleeping at night, he has a very bad hallucination. He starts seeing Frank, this giant black rabbit, who calls him out from his bed. He tells him to follow him away from his house. Donnie follows Frank, and after following him, Frank tells Donnie that the world is gonna end in 28 days, and he tells Donnie that he has to do something to save the world before 28 days. So after this meeting, Donnie spends the night outside, and when he goes back home, he finds out that there was a plane accident, and a plane engine crashed on his room. So if Frank hadn't called him out of the room, he would have died, killed by the engine. And going on with the movie, Donnie starts to understand what he has to do in order to save the world before 28 days. And Frank's appears again as an hallucination to Donnie and tells him to do a lot of bad stuff. But all the things that Frank forces Donnie to do are made in order to make Donnie achieve his goal, saving the world. So if Donnie is already forced by Frank, he's not the only one who seems to have no choice. At some points, he also gains the power to see the future of the other people around him. He literally see the path they are gonna walk on. And if he is forced by Frank, and if he also can see the paths of other people, the movie seems to imply that people don't have free will in this work of fiction. And more than this, at some points, Donnie also starts to understand that in order to save the world, he might need to die, but not just die. He has to die in the past, killed by that engine. He was supposed to die, killed by that engine. But now we are facing the grandfather paradox. If he has to go back in time, killed by the engine, if that happens, then he can't live through his timeline and save the world from destroying itself. But if he can't go back in time, then and die killed by the engine, then he's still alive and can actually do this mission. So what does he do? I would like to stop here to avoid major spoilers, and if you are interested, you can go and watch the movie and find out how he solves the problem. And I can tell you that it's actually quite a creative solution. It's not something we have discussed, but it's a device that is used very often in works of fiction. So, guys, thank you very much for joining me. We are running out of time, unluckily. I really hope you enjoyed this podcast. It was very, very important for me. I really love this movie, and I hope it was not too complicated. If it was, next time we are gonna do something softer, something easier, just to relax a little bit. So thank you again for staying with me. See you next week. Bye!